The bass shook the floor. Lights flashed over the crowd, and Marco De Luca was supposed to be thinking about business, not about a woman in a green dress. But that was before he saw her. From the VIP balcony, he had the whole nightclub under him. The bar, the booths, the dance floor full of bodies and drinks and noise. He was there for a meeting, for a signature and a handshake that would change the flow of money through the city. Instead, his eyes locked on one point in the sea of people. She was in the middle of the dance floor, surrounded by two friends. The dress she wore was green, tight to her curves, covered in sequins that caught the light every time she moved. She laughed at something her friend said, head thrown slightly back, hair brushing her shoulders. Marco lost the last line of the conversation happening at his table. "Boss?" one of his men said, waiting for his answer. Marco blinked once, then looked back at his right-hand man, Ryan. "Repeat that," Marco said. Ryan followed his gaze for a second and noticed the woman in green, but he was smart enough not to comment. He went back to the numbers, the offer on the table, the split of territory. Marco listened, gave a few short answers, and closed the deal in less than 10 minutes. It was clean, efficient, the way he liked it. But his mind kept drifting back to the dance floor. When the meeting ended, the other man shook his hand with nervous respect and left with his bodyguards. Ryan stayed, watching his boss lean on the balcony railing, dark eyes fixed on the same spot. "Want me to check something?" Ryan asked. Marco did not answer. He watched as the woman turned in the crowd, the green sequins catching blue and purple lights. Her friends were loud, carefree. She moved with them, not like someone dancing to be watched, but like someone who actually liked the music. He noticed little things. She kept her drink close to her chest in the crowd. When a drunk guy passed too near, she stepped back and frowned, and her friend pulled her to the other side. She was careful, alert, not naive. Marco felt something he had not felt in a long time. Curiosity. "Who is she?" he murmured. Ryan heard it anyway. "I can find out." Marco straightened and adjusted the cuffs of his black shirt. "No," he said. "Not yet." He left the balcony and walked down the private stairs that led to the side of the dance floor. People moved out of his way without even realizing why. It was not just the broad shoulders or the tailored black shirt rolled to his forearms. It was the way he walked through a room like he owned the floor under every footstep. He stepped into the crowd, ignoring the looks, the hands that reached out to touch him, the smiles that followed him. He had seen that all his life. Women leaning toward him, not away. Men avoiding his eyes. But she did not see him coming. Not at first. He stopped a few steps away, watching her with a focus that made the rest of the club blur. Up close, she was even more striking, light catching the warm tone of her skin, a soft glow of highlighter on her cheekbones, lips painted in a deeper color that matched the confidence in her posture. Marco waited for the right moment, for a beat in the song when her friends turned to each other, when she was just a little bit free from the circle they made. Then he stepped closer. She turned, and their eyes met for the first time. There was no instant spark in her gaze, no recognition. She looked at him like he was just another man who had walked too close in a crowded club. "Hey," he said, voice low but clear. Her brows lifted, just slightly. "Hi. My name is Marco," he said. "You look like you're having more fun than anyone else in here." It was a simple line, not something he practiced, just the truth. She tilted her head, as if surprised that he noticed that, and not her body or her dress. "I am," she said. It was a long week. Her voice was warm, but her tone was not an invitation. She took half a step back so she could still see him and her friends at the same time. One of them leaned toward her and shouted in her ear, "You okay?" She nodded. "I'm fine." Her friend gave Marco a quick look from head to toe, measured him in 2 seconds, then turned back to the music. "What's your name?" Marco asked. "Ava," she said. "Ava." He repeated it in his mind once. It fit. "Nice to meet you, Ava," he said. "Can I buy you a drink?" She shifted her weight from one leg to the other, the sequins on her dress catching red and gold light. "I already have one," she said. lifting her glass a little. "And I'm with my friends."
Date.
Most women would have used that as a soft way to make him insist, to start a game. She used it like a line in the sand. Marco smiled. Not the dangerous smile he gave his enemies, but the one that came easier around people who were not in his world. "I see that," he said. "They're lucky. You probably dragged them out of their apartments tonight." She huffed once, a not quite laugh. "Actually, they dragged me," she said. "I almost stayed home." He took a small step closer, careful not to touch her. "Then I should thank them," he said. Her eyes narrowed a little. The compliment was clear. Too clear. "Listen, Marco." She glanced toward her friends, then back at him. "I'm just here to dance and relax. I'm not looking for anything." It was a direct answer. No flirting around it. No play. He was not used to that. Marco nodded slowly, but he did not move back. "Dancing and relaxing is allowed with conversation," he said. "Maybe for you," she said. "For me, it usually turns into someone insisting when I already said no." The music changed to a faster song. Her friends cheered and started to move again. The crowd grew tighter around them. A shoulder bumped Marco from behind, but the guy stepped away fast when he saw who he had touched. Ava did not notice the man's change in posture. She noticed only Marco's eyes still on her. "Don't worry," Marco said. "I heard you." He could have left then. That would have been the smart thing to do. A simple, "nice to meet you," and he would go back to the balcony, to his bottle of whiskey, to the world he understood. Instead, he stayed. He watched as she turned back to her friends, joining their circle again. The green dress flashed and moved with the rhythm. Every few seconds, her gaze checked where he was, just to make sure he stayed at a distance. He did, for a while. Marco told himself he was just watching the room, that it was natural to keep an eye on everything inside his club, that it had nothing to do with the woman in the middle of the dance floor. But every time someone got too close to her, his chest tightened. He saw a guy try to slip behind her, drink in hand, eyes too fixed on her body. Before the man could press forward, Ava's friend stepped in, pulled her to the side, and gave the guy a look that sent him away. She could handle herself. He liked that. Maybe that was why he moved again. The next time the song slowed down, he crossed the space between them. This time, he did not come from the side. He came from behind, careful with his steps, letting the beat of the music hide his approach. When he was close enough, he leaned in, but still left a small space between his chest and her back. "I meant what I said." He spoke near her ear. "You stand out down here." She stiffened, then turned fast. Her hand came up, pressing against his chest to push him back. He had barely lifted his hand, fingers reaching toward her face, when her eyes hardened. "Don't," she said. The word cut through the music. Marco froze. He looked down at her hand on his chest. She was not shaking. She was not nervous. She was simply done. "I told you I'm not interested," she said, raising her voice just enough for him to hear over the music. "I came to dance, not to be touched by a stranger who won't listen." Around them, the crowd shifted. A few people noticed the tension. One of her friends moved closer, ready to step between them if she needed help. No one had ever put a hand on him like that in the middle of his own club, in front of his people, and told him no so clearly. Marco felt Ryan's eyes on him from the edge of the floor. His men were always near when he was in public. They waited for a signal, any sign that their boss wanted them to step in. He gave them nothing. Instead, he took a slow step back, hands where she could see them. "You're right," he said simply. "I didn't listen." Her chest moved up and down with each fast breath. The lights washed her face in blue, then pink, then gold. Her jaw was tight, but there was no fear in her eyes, only anger. And something else. Disappointment. "I don't care who you are," Ava said. "I said no. Respect that." A small, sharp sentence. It landed harder than he expected. For a second, he wanted to tell her exactly who he was. That this was his club. That people here worked for him, kept their heads down for him, pushed others out of his way for him. But that felt small in front of the way she was looking at him. He nodded once. "Understood," he said. He did not try to touch her again. He did not lean in. He just stepped aside and left a clear path for her and her friends. Ava hesitated, as if she could not believe he had backed off so easily. Then she turned away from him, grabbed her friend's hand, and moved deeper into the crowd. Marco watched her go. Ryan appeared at his side a moment later. "You want me to have security remove her?" Ryan asked quietly. "Or him?" He jerked his chin toward a man who was staring at Ava from the bar. Marco's eyes narrowed. His first instinct was control, to move pieces around the board until he felt safe, until no one could get near what had caught his attention. But she had just told him she did not want anyone doing that. "No," Marco said. "No one touches her." "No one touches her friends. Just make sure nobody bothers them." "So we do watch her," Ryan said. Marco ignored the comment. He walked back to the side of the floor, then up the private steps, leaving the noise below. From the balcony, he could see the whole dance floor again. Ava's green dress moved through the crowd like a small, bright signal. She laughed with her friends. She danced. She did not look up. He should have turned away. He should have gone home, to his penthouse with its glass walls and locked doors, to the quiet that waited for him high above the city. Instead, he stayed. Every time she moved toward the bar, he watched. Every time a stranger got too close, he felt his jaw tighten. When a man tried to step behind her again, one of his security guards appeared from the side, pretending to be just another customer, and blocked the man with his body. Ava never saw it. She only saw her own small circle of light and music. Near the end of the night, she and her friends finally left the dance floor. They sat at a high table near the back to drink water and take a break. One of the women pulled out her phone. Another changed her heels for flats she had stuffed in her bag. Ava rubbed the back of her neck and looked around the club as if waking up from a long dream. For 1 second, her eyes went up and met Marco's again. He was not close enough for her to read his expression, but he saw the way her lips pressed together. She turned away first. "I want to go home," she told her friends. They finished their drinks, grabbed their things, and headed for the exit. From the balcony, Marco watched the green dress disappear into the hallway that led to the street. The music kept playing. The lights kept flashing. The club kept moving without her. He stayed there, hands braced on the glass, feeling something unfamiliar in his chest. It was not simple attraction. He had lived with that all his life. This was sharper, a question that would not leave him alone. She said no. She pushed him away. She did not care who he was. Hours later, when the club closed and the last drunk echo faded from the floor, Marco was still thinking about the way her hand had felt against his chest. About the sound of her voice when she said she did not care who he was. In a world where everyone wanted something from him, she had wanted nothing. He walked through the empty club with Ryan at his side. Workers wiped down tables, collected glasses, turned off lights. The dance floor was just a dark space now. "You've been quiet," Ryan said. Marco did not slow his steps. "Long night. Want me to forget about her?" Ryan asked. "We don't have to know her name. We don't have to know anything." Marco stopped in the middle of the floor. The silence around him felt thick after all the noise. He knew he should say yes. He should let the night stay what it was, a memory of a green dress and a woman who had told him no. Instead, he heard himself say, "Find out who she is." Ryan raised his brows. "You sure?" Marco looked at the spot where she had stood hours earlier, laughing with her friends, before he stepped into her space and turned her night into something else. No one rejected him and walked away like that. No one stayed in his head like that. "I'm sure," he said. Ryan nodded once. "I'll talk to the manager. Check the cameras." Discreet. Marco headed for the back door that led to the private garage, his mind already moving through possibilities. He told himself it was simple curiosity, wounded pride, an ego that did not like being hit in public. But as he stepped into the cool night air and the city lights hit his face, another thought slipped in, quiet but persistent. What kind of woman says no to a man like him and does not look back? And how far was he willing to go to hear her say something different? The question followed him into the dark car, into the ride through sleeping streets, and all the way up to the silent penthouse where he should have forgotten her. He did not. And while Ava Collins threw her green dress over a chair in her small apartment across town, promising herself she would never step into that club again, Marco DeLuca was already planning the first move in a game he did not yet understand, and had no idea how it would change both of their lives. Marco DeLuca had spent years mastering control over people, over cities, over entire networks that depended on his decisions. But he couldn't control the way his thoughts kept circling back to the woman in the green sequin dress. Ava Collins. The name reached him the next afternoon. Ryan delivered it with a short nod, along with a discreet profile. Where she worked, where she lived, nothing invasive. Just enough for safety. Enough to confirm she was not connected to any enemy, any rival family, any dangerous pattern. Marco told himself he needed that information only to calm his mind, but the truth pressed deeper. He wanted to see her again. Not because she rejected him, though that still burned hotter than he expected, but because something about the way she held her ground lingered in his chest.